A man who's truly interested doesn't leave you wondering. Uncertainty isn't mystery. If he keeps you guessing, he's already given you his answer. Waiting for him to come around? You're already wasting precious time you'll never get back. I'm Vernon. In my previous video, I talked about how smart men are when it comes to investing in his the one versus a woman who's just an option. Today, I'm going deeper. This video is essentially a test, a way for you to find the answer for yourself about whether he sees you as the one or not. You see, at our age, we don't have time for the games we tolerated in our 20s, 30s, even 40s. We've earned the right to clarity. We deserve emotional discipline from the men who claim to want our time, our energy, our hearts. So before we dive in, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Because if you're here, you're ready for truth over comfort after 60. And that's exactly what we're going to give you. Now, let's start with the first quiet signal, one that often hides in the simplest moments. It reveals whether he's genuinely present or just passing time.
Number 1. He plans or he postpones. There's this thing I've noticed about how men handle time and future planning. Some guys, they exist in what I call maybe land. You know the type. Friday afternoon text. You free tonight? Everything's last minute. Everything's we'll see. Everything depends on whether something better comes along. This behavior reveals something crucial about how they view your worth. When a man keeps you in limbo about plans, he's treating you like a backup option. His calendar tells the real story. You exist in the margins, squeezed between his actual priorities. These men cancel to help a friend move, to catch a game, sometimes for no reason except that something better presented itself. They speak in vague commitments, like, maybe we'll do dinner this week, or I'll call you later. Meanwhile, you're left wondering if you should make other plans or keep that evening open. But here's what good behaviors look like when a man sees you as truly special. He makes plans in advance because your time matters to him, not just the evening itself, but the anticipation. He wants you looking forward to seeing him, and he's willing to commit to making that happen.
The dating advice here is simple but profound. When a man can't commit to a simple dinner date, he's telling you everything about his capacity for bigger commitments. It's not about demanding elaborate gestures. It's about recognizing that follow-through is love in action. A man who's serious about you creates certainty, not confusion. His actions make you feel anticipated, not anxious. You stop checking your phone wondering if tonight's still happening because his consistency has already answered that question. He who fails to plan is planning to fail, Winston Churchill once said. Now, Churchill wasn't talking about dating, but the principle holds. A man who consistently leaves you in limbo is showing you exactly where you rank in his priorities. Share this video with someone who's still waiting on maybe men, because we all know at least one woman who deserves better than breadcrumbs. When you matter to a man, his relationship psychology shifts completely. You become someone worth planning for, not just someone to fill empty hours with. His mental closet, that place where he keeps his true beliefs about relationships, starts making room for you as a permanent fixture. Because once a man starts making space for you in his calendar, the next thing to watch is whether he shows up with his full presence or just his body.
Number 2. Showing up versus checking out. Here's something that happens all too often. A man's body shows up, but his mind is somewhere else entirely. You've probably experienced this. You're sharing something important, maybe a concern about family or a memory that matters, and you can see his eyes. They're there, but they're not really there. This kind of half-presence reveals a lot about emotional availability. He's checking his phone during conversations, responding to texts while you're trying to connect, or worse, sitting right next to you, but mentally checked out completely. When men act this way, it's because you haven't become truly special to them yet. You're pleasant company, but you're not captivating enough to pull their full attention away from distractions. Now, contrast that with how the right man shows up. Everything changes when you become important to him. His energy introduces differently. When you speak, he puts down whatever he's doing. He remembers details you mentioned weeks ago because understanding you has become important to him. The relationship dynamics shift completely. Instead of waiting for his turn to talk, he's genuinely engaged with what you're saying. Instead of offering quick solutions when you need to process feelings, he gives you space to feel heard first.
This presence thing isn't just about politeness. It reveals his relationship psychology at work. When a man becomes sensitive to your emotional responses, when he starts tuning in to your inner frequency, that's when you know you've moved from option to priority. What I've observed about attention and emotional intelligence is that it's a man's most honest currency. Anyone can spend money carelessly. Anyone can say sweet words, but real attention, focused, present attention, that comes straight from the heart. The difference shows up in how he handles your emotions, too. The wrong man either tries to fix everything immediately or gets uncomfortable when you're processing difficult feelings. The right man learns to sit with you in those moments, understanding that sometimes being heard matters more than being helped. The most precious gift we can offer others is our presence, said Henry David Thoreau. At our age, we can spot the difference between someone who's there and someone who's truly with us. If you're truly important to a man, his attention becomes a gift he gives freely. You don't have to compete with his phone, his distractions, or his wandering mind. You become the thing he wants to focus on, not the thing he has to remember to pay attention to. Now that we've talked about presence, let's move into something just as revealing: how a man handles your boundaries when they don't benefit him.
Number 3. Honoring boundaries versus testing them. You know what really tells you about a man's character? It's how he responds the first time you say no to something. Some men, they treat your boundaries like suggestions at a buffet. They'll take what they want and leave the rest. Late-night texts when you've mentioned you prefer daytime communication. Jokes that cross lines you've clearly drawn. Pushing for more physical intimacy when you've asked to take things slow. I watched this happen with my neighbor Dorothy. She's in her early 60s, been clear from day one that she doesn't drink much, just wine with dinner occasionally.
This fellow she was seeing would constantly pressure her. "Come on, just one more," or "Don't be such a party pooper." Made jokes about her being uptight when she stuck to her limits. As Maya Angelou wisely said, boundaries are not walls to keep people out, but gates to let the right people in. Now contrast that with how the right man responds. When you set a boundary, he doesn't challenge it, negotiate around it, or make you justify it. He simply adjusts his behavior because your comfort matters more than his convenience. Dorothy eventually met someone at our church social who got this completely. First time she mentioned she preferred not to drink much. He just nodded and said, "Got it. How about we try that new coffee place instead?" No drama, no pressure, no making her feel like she was being difficult. The difference shows up in tiny moments that reveal huge truths. When you say you're tired, does he respect that or try to convince you to stay up longer? When you decline an invitation, does he accept gracefully or make you feel guilty? I used to think boundaries were about keeping people out. Now I know they're about letting the right people in. And the right man, he wants to understand them, not test them. At our age, we've earned the right to have standards. We've spent decades accommodating, adjusting, making exceptions for people who wouldn't make the same effort for us. Your standards aren't too high, they're just rare. A man who sees you as his person doesn't need training to respect you. Respect flows naturally from how he values you. He doesn't test your limits because he's not looking for your breaking point. He's looking for ways to honor you. Right now, save this video and tag a friend who needs this reminder. Your standards aren't too high, they're too rare. So what comes after respect? It's emotional leadership. And whether a man creates clarity or keeps you guessing says everything about his intentions.
Number 4, leading emotionally versus leaving you guessing. Isn't it wild how so many women, even in this chapter of life, still end up burning energy trying to translate a man's silence or half-interest into something meaningful? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Hot and cold behavior like a broken thermostat. One day he's texting constantly, making you feel special and wanted. The next day, radio silence. Won't tell you how he feels about you, but somehow gets upset when you make plans without checking with him first. This kind of man speaks in relationship riddles. We'll see how things go. I'm not ready for labels. Let's just enjoy the moment. Meanwhile, you're left playing detective in your own love life, analyzing every interaction like you're trying to crack some secret code. But here's what I've learned about emotional discipline and healthy relationships. Confusion isn't romance. Mystery isn't the same as depth. And a man who consistently leaves you guessing about where you stand has already told you everything you need to know. When men act this way, it reveals their avoidant behavior patterns. They want the benefits of your companionship without the responsibility of emotional clarity. They keep you uncertain because uncertainty keeps you trying harder. Compare that to how a man acts when he's serious about you. He communicates clearly. Not perfectly, nobody does that, but consistently. His relationship psychology becomes about creating security, not maintaining mystery. When he's stressed about work, he tells you instead of just being distant. When he's happy to see you, you feel it in his voice, his actions, his whole demeanor. Most importantly,
He doesn't make you wonder about his feelings. The difference shows up in how they handle conflict, too. The wrong man either explodes or disappears when there's tension. The right man stays present, works through problems, doesn't punish you with silence for having feelings. Research on attachment styles makes this clear. Emotionally secure men don't withhold affection to stay in control. They know that true connection is built through openness, not emotional games. At our stage of life, we've survived enough real uncertainty. Health scares, financial worries, family crises. We don't need manufactured drama in our romantic relationships. We've earned the right to emotional intelligence from our partners. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind, as Brené Brown puts it so perfectly. When a man cares about you, he takes responsibility for the emotional climate he creates. He doesn't expect you to navigate confusion as some kind of test of your devotion. Share in the comments, when did you realize it wasn't mixed signals, it was a clear no? That moment of clarity, painful as it might be, is when you stop wasting energy on someone who's already decided you're not worth the effort. Your nervous system knows the difference, even when your mind tries to make excuses. With the wrong man, you're constantly anxious, second-guessing, trying to read between the lines. With the right one, you can finally exhale. The last sign we'll explore says the most about who he is at his core, and how he treats your pain will tell you everything you need to know.
Number 5. Remembering what hurts versus repeating it. The way we treat people who are vulnerable to us reveals who we really are, said Virginia Satir. And nowhere is this truer than in how a man handles your pain. My friend Clara found this out the hard way. She's 60, been through a rough divorce after 30 years of marriage. Started seeing this fellow who seemed understanding at first. Clara was upfront about her triggers. She couldn't handle raised voices because of her ex-husband's temper. Explained that last-minute cancellations made her feel unimportant, brought back all those painful memories. He nodded, said he understood, promised to be different. 3 weeks later, they had a minor disagreement about which restaurant to try. His voice got loud, frustrated. When Clara went quiet, he brushed her off. "I wasn't even yelling. You're being way too sensitive." That's when Clara knew. He'd heard her pain, but he hadn't felt it. And if her hurt didn't move him to change, then what they had wasn't love. It was just convenience. Some men, they apologize to calm you down, but the patterns repeat. They might remember intellectually what hurts you, but they don't internalize it. Your pain becomes an inconvenience to manage rather than something to prevent. But when a man truly sees you as his person, everything changes. He doesn't just hear about what hurts you. He feels responsible for protecting you from that pain going forward.
Clara eventually met someone at our community garden who understood this completely. She didn't even have to explain much, just mentioned in passing that she'd had some difficult experiences with conflict in her marriage. From that day forward, whenever they disagreed about something, his voice stayed calm, not because she asked him to, but because he cared enough to remember. Love doesn't ask you to memorize, it invites you to notice. And when someone truly matters, their comfort becomes part of your instinct, not your checklist. This isn't about walking on eggshells or being afraid to be yourself. It's about love as a practice of paying attention. The right man doesn't just avoid hurting you. He actively works to heal wounds that existed before he ever met you. Your nervous system knows the difference, even when your mind tries to make excuses. With the wrong man, you're constantly braced for impact, waiting for the next time he'll forget what matters to you. With the right one, you can finally breathe easy. Clara put it beautifully. With him, I don't have to keep my guard up. He remembers not just what I've told him, but how it made me feel when I told him. That's the difference between someone who hears you and someone who truly listens.
By now, you've seen the 5 clearest signs. The ones that don't just show how he feels, but whether he's truly choosing you or simply keeping you around. He shows up with presence, makes space for your boundaries, speaks so you don't have to guess, and protects what he once misunderstood. When you're an option, you feel it in your body. The doubt, the silence, the constant stretch of trying to be enough. But when you're the one, your nervous system breathes again. You stop analyzing every text message. You stop wondering where you stand. You stop making excuses for behavior that would be unacceptable from anyone else in your life. At our age, we know that love isn't supposed to feel like anxiety. Real love feels like coming home to yourself, not losing yourself in someone else's uncertainty. After everything I've seen and lived, I always come back to this. Never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. Maya Angelou had it right. What about you? Do you have a story or reflection you'd like to share? I'm always reading the comments. And don't forget, liking and subscribing helps us grow this space where mature love and deep connection are always welcome. I've linked a few more videos in the description that might speak to where you are right now. Feel free to explore them at your own pace. And I'm Vernon. Thanks for watching my video.